There's one company we all know, starting with a big A, Amazon, Amazon Web Services. Thank you so much, Eric, for being here.
Thank you.
Very proud to have you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Firstly, a big thank you for having me here. I think in the programs it says that a gentleman named Kellen O'Connor is supposed to speak with you. I'm not Kellen. Kellen is younger, taller, and has more than one ab. But I promise I'm going to try and make up for it with charm today. So my name's Eric Morales. I run Amazon's games business for EMEA. Specifically, I run a team called AWS Game Tech. And today I'm going to talk to you about how we work with startups of all verticals, right, including games. And I'll do it through the lens of games because that's what I love them, right? So without further ado, let's jump right in. So we've been working with startups for a pretty long time. Amazon.com, our parent company, was founded in 1994. AWS was launched in 2006. And since then, we've had a fairly obsessive focus on our customers. And that's actually a bit of a freeing perspective, right? While we pay attention to our competitors, our product strategy, our roadmap is driven entirely from the pull of our customers, which means that we've been free to focus our business on the things that matter to the people who pay our salaries, ultimately. And specifically to startups, startups are a critical component of AWS's business globally. We simply wouldn't be here without working with some of the most amazing startups globally. And reaching startups at AWS means that we have to think really, really long term. It means that we're working with organizations like venture capital firms, private equity firms, incubator programs, accelerator programs, educational institutions, angel syndicates, right? You name it, we want to physically be where our startup customers are, and we've worked really hard over the last decade, roughly, to be there. And ultimately, the goal here is to help these companies scale, particularly scale globally. And for us, it's difficult to talk about scale without talking about Fortnite as one key example. Now, who here in this room is not familiar with Fortnite? Okay, a couple folks here, right? So broadly speaking, Fortnite is a massive sensation on the game space, right? This is a huge game built by Epic Games. It's a free-to-play game, and it's really fascinating from an economic perspective because it's 30% social network, 30% free-to-play game, and 30% media platform. It's a really fascinating experiment, and they have not been able to scale globally without AWS. They're all in on AWS, so every time you log in to play the game, you're running on the Amazon cloud. Today, Fortnite has over 200 million monthly active users. That's 2/3 of the population of the US is playing this game on a monthly basis. At any given moment, including right now, there are approximately 8.5 million people who are logged onto Fortnite shooting each other in the face. It's pretty amazing stuff, right? And so to power this, last year, Epic Games, the publishers of Fortnite, spoke at the AWS reInvent conference in Las Vegas, and they mentioned that they had built a 35 petabyte data warehouse to store telemetric data, about the game. And they were streaming in an additional 5 petabytes per month on average. So just to give you a sense of the scale here, if they continued ingesting data at that pace, that would mean that their data warehouse on AWS is about 95 petabytes. That's almost the same size as Google's search index, just to give you a sense of scale. And this is for one game on AWS. Pretty powerful stuff. So this is what we mean when we talk about scale, right? Being able to support customers like Epic Games and Fortnite, like Pinterest, like Airbnb, et cetera. So if you have your data in the cloud, how do you actually turn that into business value, right? Earlier this year, Rovio, another amazing customer of ours, launched a new game called Angry Birds Dream Blast, And this is a game that's similar, it's in the same universe as a Candy Crush, right? So it's a gem matching puzzle game. And they had some real challenges from a scaling perspective here. So their developers had to create roughly 40 levels per week. That's one level per working hour in a given week. They also had to test these levels to make sure that you could actually beat them, that there were no game-breaking bugs. It's a really hard quality assurance problem. So Rovio decided to do something pretty audacious. They actually moved that portion of their QA process into AWS. They built these two different bots, machine learning bots. One of them was based on heuristic models. meaning they trained the bot with existing data sets, so the bot kind of knew how to play the game already. Then they took another bot that they created using reinforcement learning, And that's a lot like handing a toddler your phone for the very first time and then having them figure it out on their own. So it's total chaos, basically. And they ran those models across dozens, hundreds, thousands of compute nodes in the cloud, and they were able to shrink that entire QA process down to just a couple of hours. And as part of that process, they aggregated that data, and that gave them a pretty healthy view on what the average difficulty level of each of these levels was. So they could then aim their human quality assurance teams, right? The folks that have actual subjective opinions and understand what something is fun or not, they could aim them at improving the experience at the software level and the engagement level. So pretty powerful stuff that helps with actual developer productivity. So how does AWS actually help with startups? Why are we a valuable partner for startups in general? Firstly, we're a big believer in flywheels at Amazon, right? And because there's no upfront cost with AWS, there's no risk to experimenting or developing. And that no upfront cost means that startups and companies all over the world can launch faster, right? What used to take weeks and months of procurement and buying infrastructure and negotiating leasing space in a closet somewhere, that's now just a couple lines of code. It's pretty powerful. As a part of that process as well, experimentation is exponentially less risky. So not only can customers take advantage of our security and compliance leadership, but now there's no financial cost to failure, right, in a lot of cases. If something doesn't work out, if you experiment, if you build a business, build an application, and it doesn't work, you just shut it off and you can walk away. It's pretty powerful stuff. And then finally, that brings us back to the core business value, right? In the cloud, you no longer need an SRE in a traditional sense. Nobody has to be sitting there in front of a console just making sure that the lights stay on. The same people who maintain infrastructure can be the people who build your product, which is incredibly powerful, right? That's the ultimate case of developer productivity. And we've had the pleasure and the honor of working with startups, tens of thousands of them from all over the world. So ranging from Airbnb to Pinterest in the States, who are arguably no longer startups, to TransferWise and Starling Bank and Monzo here in the UK, Klarna in Sweden, N26 in Germany, Voodoo in France. It's just a small taste, but we work with tens of thousands of customers all over the world to help them scale globally. And so to kind of cap things off here, right, we want to work with every startup in this room and every startup in the UK. We have tools available at this URL here that can help you get started and up and running on AWS specifically. We have our AWS Activate program, which helps startups actually get onboarded into the cloud with technical support, business support, and the capability to actually wrap your head around some of these services and scale globally from the get-go. We have a variety of what we call AWS lofts scattered in some of the hottest startup hubs all over the world. We have opportunities for co-marketing and co-branding with startups on air. These are live interviews through our social channels and via Twitch that provide guidance and spotlights for startups. We have startup days, which are technical immersion days that help startups learn how to use AWS services in depth that are tied to specific projects in your business. And then, of course, we have a startup blog, right, which is an excellent way for startups to get the word out about new product launches and take advantage of some of the commercial and media outreach that Amazon can provide. And then finally, our CTO, Dr. Werner Vogels, has launched a show on Amazon Prime Video called Now Go Build, where he travels all over the world and specifically interviews startups as they're in the building and technical phase of their products ready to launch. And there's much, much more, of course. So take a moment, feel free to take a quick snapshot, visit us at aws.amazon.com/startups, and let's chat. Thank you all so much.